Thank you so much, Lynn, and hello, it's great to see you all today. So in April 2021, I was at the Gazette as a reporter when I learned that a real estate firm had bought up most of a city block in Chinatown. The Gazette had been covering for years the whittling away of Chinatown, including the wide-scale demolition for the Guy Favreau complex. But this new high-rise project threatened the very heart of the community. The site comprised the northern part of the block bounded by La Gauchetière, Saint-Urbain, and Côté Streets, and Viger Avenue. At that time, it had no heritage protection, and it was zoned for 20-story towers. It includes the Wings Noodle Factory at the corner of La Gauchetière and Côté. Chances are you've eaten fortune cookies from Wings, which pioneered fortunes printed in French and English. But what you might not know is that the 4-story Wings building has a fascinating backstory. Gazette photographer John Kenny and I told that story in 2018. Here's a clip.
Can you imagine a public school where French and English-speaking children of different faiths learn together? A group of prominent Montrealers had that vision 200 years ago. In 1822, they founded the British and Canadian School to educate the children of all laboring people in the city. The school was all about building bridges. Arch enemies like Patriote leader Louis-Joseph Papineau and Bank of Montreal President Peter McGill came together for the good of the children. The architect of Notre Dame Basilica donated his time to design a fine stone building on La Gauchetière Street. After 4 years in temporary quarters, the school moved into the new building in 1826, welcoming children from a spectrum of different backgrounds. Today, it's still standing in the heart of Chinatown. Now a noodle factory, it's the city's oldest purpose-built school.
The reason I wanted to share that with you is to show that Chinatown's history is a rich tapestry that's been woven through the centuries, and it incorporates waves of migration. This neighborhood has been home to rich fur traders, to stern Scottish Calvinists, to Irish laborers, and to Ashkenazi Jews fleeing the pogroms. Today, Chinatown stands as a testament to the resilience of members of Montreal's Chinese community who built new lives in the face of crushing racism. So in the spring of 2021, the threat of redevelopment galvanized the community. Local organizations, including the Chinatown Working Group, of which our next two speakers were members, rallied to save the neighborhood. Jean-Philippe Riopel, a resident who first sounded the alarm about the land sale, raised a 7,000-name online petition to the Quebec National Assembly. I wrote a series of articles in the Gazette giving voice to community concerns and revealing the heritage value of the buildings targeted for redevelopment. In May 2021, the assistant to Quebec Culture Minister Nathalie Roy called me to offer an advance scoop. The minister planned to seek heritage protection. The next day, Roy announced a working group to set the process in motion. 8 months later, the Quebec government classified the entire block as a heritage site, with special protection for the Wings building and a former cigar factory on Côté Street. It was a stunning victory, but it was only the first step. Heritage buildings need to be used. They must not sit empty. 2 recent fires, including one just on Monday of the St. Paul Church, have reminded us of that. The destruction of the Barsalou soap factory near the Jacques Cartier Bridge last month has special resonance. The former home of founder Joseph Barsalou still stands at 106 to 108 La Gauchetière. It's one of the heritage buildings now awaiting a new vocation. Luckily, the next 2 speakers have a vision and a plan. They've been working tirelessly toward the goal of revitalizing Chinatown and breathing new life into this precious heritage site. Jessica Chen is a city planning professional and executive director of the Jia Foundation, a nonprofit organization to promote China's tangible and intangible heritage. And Karen Cho is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and GF Foundation's curator and exhibition manager. Her film, Big Fight and Little Chinatown, depicts community resistance and resilience in Chinatowns across North America. I'll turn it over to Karen now.
Thank you, Marion. Okay, I hope this microphone is working. Okay, and the slide presentation is coming up. Thank you all for coming both in person and online to for this presentation, and thank you for the wonderful introduction, which leads really well into our presentation. Okay, so I just press space to. Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Montreal's Chinatown. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the history, my personal connection to Chinatown, and then, of course, in a way, the more interesting things, what's happening now after this kind of heritage fight that Marion spoke about. First off, well, I'm a fifth generation Chinese Canadian on my father's side. So my family roots go back to the beginnings of both Montreal and Vancouver's Chinatowns. So in our Chinatown here in Montreal, the family photo you see, this is actually my family. It's my great grandfather, my grandmother, who's the young woman in the photo, and my two great uncles who were all born in Montreal's Chinatown. So my grandmother was born in Montreal's Chinatown in 1919. And my great-grandfather was actually one of the original partners in the import-export business that became Wings Noodles. So if any of you have ever opened a fortune cookie, had a soy sauce packet with your Chinese takeout, or had noodles in one of our Chinatown restaurants, you know the products of Wings Noodles that up until this past December were manufactured in Chinatown out of the British and Canadian school building that Marion spoke about. And the framed photo at the bottom, because I'm also in a new documentary project now, kind of documenting the closing of Wings Noodles. This framed photo was just pulled out of the factory a couple of weeks ago, and it's a portrait of my great grandfather. So it's emotional for me to be documenting the closing of a business that's 130 years old, that my own great-grandfather had a hand in, and a business that really kind of documents and is witness to the kind of evolution of Chinatown, the settlement of Montreal, and who we are as residents here in Montreal in such an important neighborhood. So Marion's gone through some of this, but anyways, I'll give you a bit of a background on Chinatown, because this Chinatown is very unique. Montreal's Chinatown is the last Chinatown in Quebec. It's the last Francophone Chinatown in all of North America. It's one of the only Chinatowns in Canada to still be on its original geographic footprint. And some of the original structures, like the British Canadian School building, are still standing today. And a lot of, because of that, heritage was a lever that we could really use and a tool we could use to kind of defend the neighborhood. So the Chinese have been in Montreal since the 1860s, and Chinatown itself, even though we always think of it as a foreign neighborhood or a tourist neighborhood, is actually the second oldest neighborhood in all of Montreal, out after the old port. So the map here, which was from the Gazette, it's a 1981 map of Chinatown, and all the white spaces on this map are all the buildings that were destroyed in the kind of urban renewal period of Montreal. So just to give you a sense of how big it was, and kind of the destruction that happened and the expropriation that happened in the neighborhood. And the black and white photo is a photo of the big hole that became the Guy Favreau Center. And you can actually see the Wings Noodle building, the white building, standing at the edge of this kind of giant hole. But 2/3 of Chinatown were kind of destroyed in this period. 200 structures were destroyed. Every building that my family lived in and worked in Chinatown were all destroyed in this period. So the population, because when you take away the houses and the churches and the factories and all of that, the population of a neighborhood really goes down. So Chinatown's population at that time dropped 90%. So, in a way, fast forward to the future, it's a neighborhood. All the blue areas on this map here are places where you can see there was expropriation happening of Chinatown. So Chinatown on all three sides was kind of, hemmed in by the Ville Marie Expressway, the Chum, the Desjardins and Hydro-Quebec buildings. But in the present day, and this is how the Chinatown Working Group first formed. We woke up one day and on the south gate of Chinatown, there were two gaping holes on both sides of that gate because new condo and hotel projects had just kind of been, approved. And the community actually had no idea that these things were kind of being rubber stamped through. And you can see in the photo how close these places are to the actual Chinatown gate and how they don't reflect at all the history or the heritage of the community. And even in their own websites, they were using this language like, this is a luxury condo in the heart of downtown, close to the Quartier de Spectacle and the old port. Well, that neighborhood has a name, and it's called Chinatown, and it's been there for 150 years, and it's not a new place, as this condo was kind of claiming it to be. And the own condos, a photo of the condo erased the Chinatown gate completely off of, their mock-up. So as a filmmaker, this is where I was like, oh my gosh, like, we have to tell this story. It's a really important story. And I had, the very first film I did also took place partly in Montreal, Chinatown. It was about the Chinese Head Tax and Exclusion Act. So I knew a lot of folks in the community, and I knew the agency that the community had, because so many of the newspaper articles at the time all across North America were talking about Chinatowns as a dead and dying place, like this inevitable, thing that we're kind of fed that, with urban renewal, these places will just be wiped out. And I knew that communities don't just sit there and watch as their neighborhood becomes gentrified. So it was important for me to kind of tell a story from the community's point of view of what was happening, and also to connect that to this larger narrative of this is a very important Montreal neighborhood. So many different immigrant groups moved through Montreal's Chinatown. It's really the story of who we are as Montrealers and how the city was settled. So now I think this is the film clip. So we're going to show you a film clip that talks a little bit about the history I just mentioned.
Welcome to Wings. Originally, fortune cookies were first invented actually in the States. My father went to San Francisco and he saw the first version. He says, I'd like to bring that up here. So we were the first to do bilingual fortune cookies.
What's your favorite one?
I like Chinese food.
Soon you'll be gone.
You see that building in front of us? That's Wings Noodle. For us, that is the heart of Chinatown. Any new immigrants that arrived here, they needed jobs, right? And Wings Noodle was the place that they would go to, they could turn to. Well, there was the Irish and the Jewish and many other communities that passed through there.
Originally, this was like a Jewish town. So my father then says, hey, maybe if we kosherize our products, sell a bit more.
This is a very special Chinatown. You know, c'est un des rares quartiers chinois francophones.
Most English-speaking Canadians think of a Chinese in the traditional sense as a man who has learned to speak English with more or less of a funny accent. But listen to this.
Hello, Wang Wing. Oui, Jean. 3 douzaines.
We used to play here, we used to eat here. You know, there's so much that goes back. Like we like to see it continue, but you know, it's long hours. I'm 63, my brother's 69. There are no next generations that's interested in working this type of business. It's emotional to think of actually selling, but you know, at one point you have to say, well, there's nothing left.
Depuis 30 ans, le quartier chinois a perdu les 9/10 de sa population. La construction d'édifices à bureaux et du palais des congrès également a chassé les Chinois de leur quartier qui devient en fait presque inhabité quand les restaurants ferment.
During the so-called period of urban renewal in Montreal, between 1960 and the 1980s, there were at least 200 structures that were destroyed.
Ce qu'il faut présenter à des gens qui nous viennent, c'est de leur montrer le vrai visage de Montréal.
When they built Guy Favreau, they took out like 1/3 of Chinatown.
Ça va faire quelque chose de très intéressant qui va raviver le centre, le cœur de la ville de Montréal.
You have Complex Desjardins that was built. You know, the Hydro-Quebec building. They're almost like tombstones, beginning of the death of Chinatown.
Avec le progrès de la ville, le quartier chinois est tout fait.
With the Wings Noodle block, it's in itself, from an urban morphology point of view, that you can see how it is actually survived this massive infrastructure surrounding it.
As you can see, everything else is being developed around Chinatown. That is like, that little bit is pretty much what's left.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was a clip from the film, and at the time I had documented what was actually the sale of the Wings Noodle building. So that was in 2021, and it was the sale of that building that actually sparked this huge mobilization all across Montreal, because I think people realized that we were kind of one condo project away from losing the entire neighborhood, but also the importance of that building, you know, not only for the Chinese Canadian community, but, you know, on an architectural level, from the French history, the Irish, the Scottish history, and also the fact that the block itself had also been, you know, like a Jewish block. A lot of those buildings were former synagogues. So it's kind of the story of us, that block. So, that's how the Chinatown Working Group kind of came together, and mounted this narrative that wasn't just only about the Chinese and Chinatown. It was really about Montrealers realizing that this is an important neighborhood for all of us, and I think that was part of the success of it. And as you know, Marion had mentioned, we managed to get heritage status, and it happened in such a period. It was in a period of 9 months. You know, from when news broke, and JP was the one that broke the news. He was a tenant living on that block. that the building had been sold, that all this kind of press, thanks to the Gazette and others, and the mobilization that, Montreal really came together to show that this neighborhood matters, this building matters, but also like the future we want for the neighborhood is not a future where, we just bulldoze everything, shiny new buildings, shiny new people. And to give you an idea of how, I guess, unprecedented in a way that heritage fight was, Heritage Montreal, like they fought for 30 years to get Mount Royal, the mountain that our city is kind of named after, Mount Royal, designated as a heritage site. So it took 30 years for Mount Royal, and we got these buildings in Chinatown landmarked in 9 months, and it was thanks to the mobilization all across. And part of the mobilization, the Wings Noodle building was protected. The other building that they also occupy, the S. Davis and Sons building, which was a former cigar factory, was also landmarked. The block was downzoned and designated by the province and the city as a heritage site. But as important as it is to fight against something, it's like what do we want to fight for now, And I think that's where this next phase of Chinatown comes in, and something that did come out of that heritage fight is actually the Jia Foundation. So I'm going to pass, the microphone on to Jessica for this, but a lot of the activism and the goodwill and the storytelling and the importance of, realizing how important the neighborhood was, came through during that fight, and we realized that we really needed a kind of organization to do that storytelling piece, to talk about community-driven real estate solutions, and to really kind of go and avoid this thing that had been happening where these condo projects were just getting rubber stamped by the neighborhood. So this is the Jia Foundation, but I'm going to pass it on to Jessica to introduce what has happened subsequent to this heritage fight.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Karen and Marianne, for me to go down this memory lane together. So a bit about my own involvement. It's a bit different from Karen. Karen has a long roots in Montreal's Chinatown, his family and all. For me, I moved to Montreal 12 years ago. I was an urban planner with the city of Vancouver for 12 years. So when I moved here, I was not involved with Montreal's Chinatown at all. I was actually, the only involvement was this collective garden I was involved into, it's called Chinatown Green Garden. So I was called by these long-term community activists saying, condos are happening. We heard you are an urban planner from Vancouver. Can you come and help us deal with City Hall? So that's how I started getting involved with the Chinatown Working Group. And coming from Vancouver, it was a bit shocked when I first get involved because Vancouver's Chinatown was designated as a a heritage site since 1970s. So I was really worried about the precarity at the time, and so that's why I started putting a lot of time volunteering along with the Chinatown Working Group. So now fast forward to where we are after that big fight. We quickly dissolved the Chinatown Working Group, and what Karen said, we want to switch gear, turning from fighting against something we don't want to really start to think about the type of equitable development models, the community-driven development models that we want to see in our neighborhood. And that's why we set up this new nonprofit called the Jia Foundation. Jia, people are wondering, does it stand for something? Is it an acronym for something? It's actually, Jia is a Mandarin word. Means family, community, home. So it has a lot of different layers of meaning. And the name of our organization basically talk about what Chinatown means to a lot of people. People feel connection with Chinatown through different ways. Even just between Karen and I, we feel connected. I found my community. I feel my roots through Chinatown after I moved to Montreal. So Jia Foundation, after we get formed, our mandate is really focusing on both tangible and intangible heritage of Montreal's Chinatown. A big part of our work is really doing exhibitions, putting together events and programs that are intergenerational and cross-culture, and to really start to dig into why Chinatown matters to us, to Montreal and to Quebec and to larger, over in Canada. And because of our origin story, a lot of our work, other than just putting on these exhibitions and programming through our project called Chinatown House, we really focus a lot on where we activate those spaces in our neighborhood. So in this neighborhood, you are seeing, if you visit Chinatown now, you do see it's going through a bit of a transition phase. You see the vacant buildings, and sometimes the public spaces need some care, some love. So a lot of our programs really focusing on activating those community spaces and public realm. So some of the photos you see here is our programs. 3 years ago when we started, we have $0 in the bank and $0 in the bank. And of course, we don't own any space in Chinatown. So what we could do, but what we have is a group of very dedicated, compassionate people, and a lot of artists actually coming, getting involved. And so we were very fortunate and grateful to collaborate with a lot of local community organizations. When they have space that are underutilized and vacant, we went in there and to activate them. So that's kind of first couple of years of what we do in the Chinese Family Services building. And then also some of the spaces in alleyways, we did these pop-up weed pasting galleries in this lane next to the Chinese Family Services building. Second part of our work is really around community real estate and urban planning issues. As we know, access to affordable community spaces is a big problem. Like Jia Foundation, we are one of them. Like, where are we going to do those events? And and then housing. Earlier, Walter, you see in the film clip, talk about how Chinatown got wiped out, a third of it. So where are the affordable housing? Where the growth is going to be? So these are the type of project Jia Foundation got ourselves involved in, using planning initiative to start to bring different stakeholders together. Like when the city used droit de préemption bought the 3 lots on Clark Street, we started to bring stakeholders together saying, hey, what do we want this development to look like? While the city is looking for the nonprofit developers to take over the site. And the third part of our work is really to be very active. We remain very active in the National Chinatowns Network on issues of heritage, land trusts, and community development. So the first project after Jia Foundation was formed, it was that we hosted an international forum called Chinatown Reimagine Forum. In this forum, because this big fight, if you got a chance to watch Karen's full film, Big Fight in Little Chinatown, you will see that our journey, our fight here is not alone. You know, it's happening in San Francisco, in New York at the time. At the same time, they were fighting a jail, a community jail. I don't know what that means, to be built inside in Chinatown. So this is kind of part of the Chinatown movement that we found ourselves getting involved in. So we did the Chinatown Reimagine Forum, brought policymakers and community organizers from 10 different Chinatowns in North America to Montreal to say, hey, let's dip into that brain trust to see what worked, what doesn't work, and how Montreal we can innovate new strategies moving forward. So so a lot of relationship kind of remained, and then flourished, continue with that. I just show that photo because that's with the forum. We won the Governor's Award from National Trust for Canada. And that's the time I met Ron Rayside from Rayside-Labossière Architecture. And now he's working very closely with us on the Wings project that I'm going to get into. So these are the 3 areas of work we worked on. And last year, just like this past 5-6 years of story, last year there was an incredible moment that happened. So Marianne talked about Jean-Philippe Riopel, who is a long-term tenant on the block. He sounded alarm saying, hey, the buildings are getting bought out, big towers are coming. So he sounded alarm, really take our mobilization to a broader network. He managed to buy back this little building from the developer. And won't get into the detail how that happened, but before he closed that sale, he's not a wealthy person. So he's like, Jessica, I'm going to have this massive mortgage, and can Jia Foundation become our anchor tenant? And I'm like, well, we don't really have money to pay rent. And I think, I don't know, stars are aligning. Just the same month, we got the funding from McConnell Foundation. So there we go. We moved into Maison. We named the building Maison Yep Riopel to pay tribute to the residents living in that building. So it was a crazy time. We got the possession of, JP got the possession of the building, and then we went in December 2024. Over Christmas period, we were renovating this because the funding, we also got some funding from the city of Montreal. The funding is that in 3 months, in March, we have to put up an exhibition. And so we're like, well, yes, we're going to do it. So we always just kind of dive in, and then we realize, wow, we have to do the renovation over Christmas. Like, who are we going to come and help us with this? But we did it through friends and commitment, and we did the renovation. And in February last year, we opened up the space, and you see the before and after of this little 650 small square foot small space that we have. So Chinatown House, after 2 years, now we have our physical location in the heart of Chinatown. And we did open up our first exhibition. Karen is our curator for that exhibition, La Maison Yep Riopel. There is and in the end of when we take down the exhibition, we produce a very lovely catalog outlining some of this history, including the fights, including the recent this David versus Goliath story. Like, it's just an incredible journey that we went through last year. So our building, Maison Yep Riopel, this little building you see here, this is a photo from 1978. We are in the middle of this this block. Now we call it Wings Block, because the Quebec government, when they designated it, they call it Noyau institutionnel du quartier chinois, and it's kind of a mouthful. And but it's talking about the very rich cultural heritage and institutional core of Chinatown, that where a lot of the history started from this block. So this block has a lot of rich history, not only just in terms of the buildings, but all the objects inside of these buildings are has an incredible history, not just related to the Chinatown itself, but Wings, it's over like about 130 years of a business. All these objects inside British Canadian School and Davidson Sun Building, it's been there for all the generations. Mr. Arthur Lee, he didn't throw out things. So Jean-Philippe, other than residents and advocates, he's also a museologist. So he brought together a team of museologists, formed a group called Object et Mémoire. And during COVID time, when Karen was making that film, they put together, trying to look through all these items and created a collection, like a museum quality collection called Wings Collection, because those objects actually tells a lot of stories. He realized it doesn't tell just story of Chinatown. It's really how Chinatown grew along the history of Montreal and Quebec. So that collection, I think it's a worst kept secret, so I'm just going to say it, is going to be acquired by MEM, and Centre des Mémoires de Montréal. And so this museum, lovely museum just outside of Chinatown. So we're very glad that it will have this important collection, will have a good owner, and we will have the access, community will have access to be able to curate exhibitions out of these incredible objects. So where we are now, everybody knows that when we know that Wings closed since last November, there's a lot of news out. Since we moved in, we become direct neighbor of Wings building. So I had a lot of conversation with, you see Garnet Lee, the co-owner of Wing Noodles in the film. We talked a lot about their plan. So we know it was imminent for them to either move out or close. So we were aware a bit ahead of all the news broke out that they're going to close in November. So we talk JAT Foundation, we talk with Wings, like how will we be able to come up with a strategy to conserve the Wings legacy, but also find a way to turn this potential crisis in our neighborhood. Now it's going to be 2 big vacant buildings in the heart of Chinatown. And how do we turn this potential crisis into an opportunity for us to really build a cultural heritage hub for our Chinatown, for Montreal. So that is the project, the Wings Conservation Strategy that we launched, which include a process to basically bring all the property owners, stakeholders in and around the block together. We call partners table, because buildings are changing hands. New business owner coming might have a new projects in mind and all. There is no venue for us to figure out as neighbors, how are we going to work together in this very tight quarter of these buildings basically butting against each other. So we just had our first meeting, and it was exciting to actually launch this process, to be able to bring people together, talk about sometimes not always very easy topic, because as an inner city neighborhood, we do have cohabitation issues that we're grappling with, and a lot of building as they change hands. What is the new, whether the new vision will fit into the long-term vision of Chinatown, whether our vision together go into the same direction or not. So that is kind of what the purpose of this partners table. We hope to create a venue that we will be able to share plans. Yeah, so right now the two Wing Noodles actually occupy both Wings building and the Davis and Son building. So as they move out, just in December, there is the confirmed news that Old Brewery Mission purchased the Davis and Son building to build. For now, they are planning to. They say they are planning to build 68 long-term social housing for people over 55 years old who are at risk of being homeless. So this project is just being tabled, and they will be speaking to community about it, because there's a lot of anxiety about how. Let's just look at this block here. It's a very eclectic group of people are going to live together, work together, and figure out a common vision together. So yeah. With that, with a part of the vision, obviously everybody's saying, well, you can plan, but unless Wings building has this new life that get into it, are you guys going to buy the building? So we actually last December 5th, we put together our first fundraising dinner, community banquet in Chinatown, to celebrate Garnet and Gilbert Lee's very well-deserved retirement, and thank them for being such an important socio-economic pillar of Montreal's Chinatown. And then we launched this Wings strategy, and in that to really test out, if JA is able to start to wanting to convene a very strong vision, are we going to be able to get a lot of strong, important partners to come work with us to realize this vision? We only had less than a month to organize this fundraising dinner, and we sold out 300 tickets right away. And so you can see people really care, and it was such a diverse group of people who come together. So Wings project, Wings building right now, it is on the market, and $5 million that we don't have in the bank. But I think there are a lot of people, partners, been knocking and saying that we would love to be part of it and help out. So we are in the middle of trying to figure out how to do that. And the objective for Wings project is to first to conserve Wing Noodle's legacy. So to do that, our next major exhibition that is going to come up in May. Karen is right now very busy to turn the documentation in the past few months of the move-out process into an exhibition about Wing Noodle's legacy for an exhibition opening, so stay tuned. That will be around May 23rd. And the second objective is to save this iconic heritage building. So we are working closely with the Héritage Montréal to look at how to make sure there is an interim strategy, no matter there is a proper acquisition plan and to do redevelopment for the project, there need to be a plan for the interim, because Wings will move out by the end of this month. And when the building is unused, it's really at risk. So we are very glad that now we have mission and we have growing community support for this. And we just know that we do need a team of very capable people with experience to work with us on making this a reality. So I'm glad to have Rayside. That's why I earlier mentioned I met Ron Rayside at the National Trust Conference. So Rayside Labossière, Héritage Montréal, and Plex Consulting and Foskin, they are kind of helping us right now tabling this project together. Our hope is to actually have the building on the ground floor to become what we call Maison Wing. So the Chinatown House project we have at Maison Yep Real space, I mentioned it's very small. We have been doing pretty well. And even our first little exhibit when we opened, because the space is so small, we have to have 3-day rolling opening to accommodate the vernissage for the exhibition. And then even now, every time we put on the event, in 2 days, we are full capacity. And so it is an issue. But it just demonstrates the needs that we need bigger space. So in the meantime, we've been collaborating with venues that has larger space and capacity like MEM. And then we are hoping we will be able to expand into the ground floor. So I just want to end with this. I think Wing Noodles is a made in Chinatown, made in Montreal, and made in Quebec success story. And so thanks for having us here. And we hope you will join us to celebrate and preserve this legacy for generations to come for all Montrealers.